Welcome to the Through the Lane Podcast. We had some big news today with non-football stuff, but we had some very interesting games, NFL and college football-wise, play out. Some big upsets, stuff like that. And starting off, Derrick Rose got cut as of like a few hours ago from the Grizzlies. I had a feeling it was coming. They needed to clear up some space. And it really looked like he's going to be on the chopping block because Marcus Smart was probably going to play the backup point guard spot. He only played 24 games last year, started 7, scored 8 points on 46% shooting from the field, and it was pretty good. But just the health is where you draw a line. I mean, he had good overall stats, it's just couldn't stay healthy. And it's a shame to see that because, people like to say that he can be an MVP. I just don't know. So, he's played a decent amount of games, but it was like after he started tearing his ACL, from 2017 on, he hasn't been the same guy. Well, he's had some good outputs, but he's just not been at that level. He was more of a sixth man for a bit, and he's just been a good veteran. It's a shame to see him go. But at the same time, Memphis needed to clear some space. They cut him. You have Marcus Smart as the backup. Cam Spencer as a backup. You have a few backup point guards, and they kept Lee Kennard, so. And this, the starting five will probably end up being John Morant, Desmond Bain, Vince Williams Jr., Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jaden Ivey. So, yeah, Marcus Smart can come off the bench, along with Brandon Clark, John Conchard, Jake LaRuvia, Santi Aldama, Gigi Jackson, who's going to miss a significant part of the season. And that's also something too. The Knicks are going to be down to Jericho Sims and Precious Achiuwa. They don't believe Julius Randle will be ready. They don't believe. Robinson won't be ready, and someone else won't be ready to play the center position. So they're going to be really short-handed, and it's going to be crucial for the Knicks because it's going to be they don't have much. Looking at it here, Jericho Sims, Mitchell Robinson. They do have Ariel Couture on a two-way, so he could probably back up. But it looks like Precious Achiuwa will be the starting center. Marcus Morris will probably make the roster over Landry Shamet because of it. But moving on, the Reds fired David Bell this morning or last night. And Skip Schumacher, the current Marlins head coach, last year's coach of the year, is rumored to be the next head coach. David Bell, the Reds were pretty good, had a lot of young talent, but it just didn't look. They didn't play well this year. A lot of injuries, and some guys had some slumps, and you kind of have to look at. David Bell at that. Now, he has had a great career, a great career as a coach, being around 500. But it's kind of crazy to see them fire him. I don't know where he goes. It looks like Skip Schumacher will become the next manager of the team, and he's been pretty good, kind of getting all he can out of that Marlins team, keeping them to be scrappy. But that is that. Moving on to the NFL side of it. We have 2 Monday Night Football games going on right now. And right now, the Jaguars are being dog-walked by the Bills. It is bad. It's 34. Wow. Okay, so it's got even worse. It's 34-3. Josh Allen has thrown 4 touchdowns in the first half. Trevor Lawrence does not look that good. Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Ty Johnson, Keon Coleman all have receiving touchdowns. It's just not good. Sacks they've already got a sack on Trevor Lawrence. It does not look good. Damar Hamlin has a pick. It's just not look good. 34-3. It's the second half isn't even over. It's crazy. Another one is Washington Bengals. Washington is up 14-7. If Washington wins this game, you gotta look around a lot. Joe Burrow threw for a touchdown. The Commanders have ran for 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase has caught the receiving touchdown. T. Higgins has been activated for this game. Zach Moss a little bit better running the ball, so 4 carries, 25 yards. That's pretty good. Luke McCaffrey right now leads the team in receiving yards, and that's the kind of guy that they need him to break out. Terry McLaurin has not had a good year. Noah Brown kind of shown that good receiver 3, receiver 4 ability. Now McLaurin through 3 games has 8 catches, 39 yards. It's not that good. Yeah. Not much else out of that for that game. If the Bengals lose to the Commanders, it's going to be big. Because they'll be 0-3, and it puts them really far behind. Really far behind. But going to Thursday's matchup, we'll start with Mondays. The Falcons came back, Mondays, the Falcons came back the last second to beat the Eagles. Pretty big win. And we will talk what happened with the travesty the Falcons happened last night. They were in a similar scenario, but the Falcons needed that. That kind of win, because they have a tough start to the season. They needed that win, and so it just gets them a good start. They're 1-2 right now, but everyone else is like 2-1, so it leaves them a game behind. So moving forward, the Patriots got. It wasn't slacked, but 24-3. We got to see a little bit of Drake May. He was sacked twice in the little bit he played. He went 4 of 8 for 22 yards. This team, this is arguably the worst team in football. I will say it is the worst team in football. It's no pressure. Keon White did not have a sack, but he had 6 tackles. Joshua Uche had a sack. For the Jets, this is big. They needed this. Aaron Rodgers threw for 2 touchdowns. Braylon Allen, who I think is probably the better running back long term, led the team in rushing yards by a yard. Breece Hall had a rushing touchdown. Al Lazard caught one, and so did Garrett Wilson. They're very limited. Now, if Alan Lazard can show us at number 3, then good. Tyler Conklin somehow led the team, and this is how bad the Patriots are, because he's terrible. Oh, he's not terrible, but he's not that good. 5 catches, 93 yards. He had 6 targets. Garrett Wilson had 9. Defensively, Will McDonald had another 2 sacks, gives him 5 on the season already, which is massive because he's really played 2 games. Chuck Clark had a sack. Quinn Williams had a sack. Solomon Thomas and Tack McKinley had a half a sack. Leonard Taylor had half a sack. Javon Kinlaw had a sack, and Michael Clemens had half a sack. Tack McKinley, when he was with the Falcons, was good for a bit. He's still only 28. He had 6 sacks, 7 sacks, 3.5, and then he started to go down. But yeah, they need him to step up with the loss of Jermaine Johnson. Will McDonald looking like a great edge rusher, just racking up sacks. Last year, he had 3 sacks in 15 games. He's already passed it. He's already forced a fumble. So it's already looking good. He was taken 15th overall, and he's showing it. So they need that massively. Now, Patriots, with how bad that offensive line is, I don't think Drake May will ever get a long extended run this year just because the offensive line is terrible. But that's outside of it. The Giants beat the Browns 21-15. Lee Neighbors is a dog. Daniel Jones threw 2 touchdowns. He was 24-34. No picks this time. Devin Singletary led the team in rushing. He had a touchdown. Lee Neighbors caught 2 touchdown passes. Wan'Dale Robinson showing that he can be a solid 3 or 2 receiver. Darius Slayton. It's the same thing that happened 2 or 3 years ago, and then he popped off second half of the season. And last year was the leading receiver. He needs to go somewhere where he's appreciated. He did go down with injury. But yeah, he's had over 700 yards receiving 4 years out of this is now year 6. His lowest was in 2021 when he had 339. I think that's when they started the trade rumors. Then he popped off in 2022, and then showed it again in 2023. The rumors are back this year. I think they just honestly should trade him just because he deserves to go somewhere where he's appreciated and be shown that as a good number 3 receiver. Man, the Browns are bad. That offensive line, Deshaun Watson was sacked 8 times. They can't get the running game going. Amari Cooper did have 2 catching touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy's quiet. I mean, this offense is bad, dude. It's just really, really bad. Because they really have, who's Jordan Atkins? Is he a receiver? That's a tight end. They really have just 2 receivers. 3, maybe? Elijah Moore ain't much. Cedric Tillman. But, yeah, Elijah Moore, mid. Coming from Ole Miss. But looking for the defensively for the Giants, Bobby Okereke had half a sack. Jason Pitcock had a sack. Micah McFadden and Rakeem Nunez-Roches had half a sack. Dexter Lawrence had 2. Brian Burns had 1. Elijah Chapman had 1. Thibodeau had a half a sack. And Azeez Ojulari had 1. Dude, it was just having fun in that backfield. Just bad. The Browns are getting, because I was watching a little bit of Pat McAfee, and they had Bill Belichick on there. Bill Belichick pretty much did not say any team was that bad outside of the Browns. He was like, I know who the Browns are. They're pretty bad. He wouldn't say that about the Patriots because he kind of is the fault of the Patriots. But it is kind of, they are kind of bad because Deshaun Watson isn't that good. They had no running attack without Nick Chubb. The receiving corps is offensive line's terrible. Defensively, they're all right. But again, when they have to go in the field, and we'll talk about this in the college side about a game, when you have to go in the field so many times, your defense is going to get destroyed. Now, the next game was kind of big. The Packers versus the Titans. Malik Willis got the start. And this was him pretty much getting revenge on his old team that traded him a few weeks ago. They won 30-14, and Will Levis looked bad again. 26-34, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, but they're 2 bad picks. DeAndre Hopkins had another catching touchdown. Josh Weil, receiver, was the 3rd leading receiver. He's a tight end. You're seeing guys not Treylon Burks, 1 catch, 9 yards. It's not good. He has 2 catches for 11, right? Calvin Ridley, 1 catch, 9 yards. You have Tyler Boyd, 3 catches for 33 yards. And then DeAndre Hopkins leading the team. Chig Okonkwo, not that good. They could not run the ball at all. And, Kenneth Murray had 2 sacks and Jeffrey Simmons had a sack. You can bet that defense is going to be there. The defense failed them. But when you have an offense as bad as they do, the defense can only do so much. Malik Willis had himself a solid game. 13-19, 202 yards of passing touchdown, 6 carries, 73 yards, rushing touchdown. Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs were 2 of the running backs that played. Emmanuel Wilson led the team, was second on the team in rushing yards behind Josh Jacobs. I don't know if they have the running attack. I think, I saw some where people were kind of dogging on Jordan Love he had only 9 good games. Well, in 17 games, that's pretty good. They need to get healthy. Emmanuel Wilson looks like, a very good running back. Who is it? Jaden Reed. Looks like the potential to be that number 1 receiver. Last year, the past 2 years, they've been really developing the receiving corps. Jaden Reed had 793 yards. Last year, I want to look at the receiving yard Lord, I can't talk. Receiving stats. Because, the running attack is completely different. Now, Jaden Reed's getting more run time, and Emmanuel Wilson. Jaden Reed's a dual threat. He can run the ball and catch it. But he led the team in receiving yards last year. Romeo Doubs is a good number 2 option. Daytovian Wicks, I feel like he's better as a number 4. Christian Watson is probably the number 3. A big physical guy. Romeo Doubs is not big. He's 6'2", 204. He's skinnier. Looking at Christian Watson, he's 6'4", 208. And then what about Reed? He's 5'11". It's a lot of just fast guys. They get on the edges of you and they just kind of take you down. He had no one over 6'2". And then you get to the tight ends. The tight ends are pretty good. Tucker Kraft had some great blocks. Luke Musgrave is a very solid tight end. He's 6'6", big threat in the end zone. Outside of that, they look better this year looking at their stats. Malik Willis is just now leading the team in passing yards. Malik Willis is also second in the team in rushing yards. Emmanuel Wilson and Jaden Reed kind of splitting carries as the backup. Not really. I mean, Emmanuel Wilson's got 21 carries. Marshawn Lloyd has looked a little solid. He's now on the team. Davion Wicks has been quiet. Emmanuel Wilson is not as gadgety as he did look last year. Josh Jacobs is not much of a receiving back. Devontae White had 2 sacks the other Sunday, and he's up to 3 on the year. And they need that from him. They need some guys to step up in the interior of the offensive line. Edgerrin Cooper had half a sack. Preston Smith had 2 in his own right. Luke Van Ness, a former first-round pick. I think he was in the same one. Yeah, he went 2 picks before Will McDonald. That's insane that they could have Will McDonald. But, yeah, the Titans, I'd say, because we don't know what we're going to get from the Panthers. And we're going to look at the Panthers in here in a second because after this past weekend, we don't know what the Panthers are. The Titans are one of the worst teams in the league just because Will Levis sucks and they had no running attack. I mean, Will Levis is going to be I feel like a Ryan Fitzpatrick type of guy. He's got a good personality. He's going to go around the league, but he's going to play for like 19 teams, and he just can't be a full-time starter. Just because he makes too many mistakes. Now on to the Chicago Colts game. Caleb Williams played well. I mean, he did throw 2 picks, but 363 yards, 2 touchdowns. They had no rushing attack. Rashawn Johnson's getting more run time than Khalil Herbert, which is crazy because Khalil Herbert last year was, past 2 years, in 2022 averaging 5.7 yards per carry. Last year 4.6. He had 731 yards in 2022, 611 in 2023. I read something that he was on the roster bubble somehow. If he was to get cut, he'd most definitely get picked up because he is a very solid running back. Rashawn Johnson is in his second year. He's mid. He's the guy that backed up Bijan at Texas. It was kind of crazy because I think Bijan went down for a few games and he kind of popped off. And everyone's like, oh, okay. It was kind of crazy that he spent most of that season as a backup and kind of was like, yeah, I'm ready to declare. I think he should have stayed. But Romeo Duzé popped off. 6 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Cole Kmet, 10 catches, 97 yards. DJ Moore finally getting involved. 8 catches for 78 yards. And the videos of DJ Moore looking upset. They finally got him involved. But man, dude, they need him more involved in the game if they're gonna win some games this year. Because he's probably their number 1 receiver. Then you go Romeo Duzé. And then whenever Keenan Allen comes back, Keenan Allen's going to go from being a number 1 target with the Chargers to number 3. And that's maybe 4 behind Cole Kmet where you want to put him. Anthony Richardson looked rough. And now he's at game 10 outside of, beyond college, I think. No, it's game 18 past high school. He's very raw. It's hard to judge him. Jonathan Taylor had 23 carries for 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's crazy to think that Anthony Richardson played so bad and they still won that game. Caleb Williams cannot turn the ball over. Now, for the Colts, Alec Pierce, 1 catch for 44 yards, Michael Pittman, and then they had Josh Downs. And then Adonai Mitchell. This is a group that's got very good, 4 really good receivers, I believe. It's just they don't have a really good quarterback right now. He's got to develop. Adonai Mitchell's had been targeted 10 times. Josh Downs, was a former 3rd-round pick. He's really good. I think Adonai Mitchell is a 2nd-rounder. Yeah. Then you have Michael Pittman, and then Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce has started to pop off. He was himself a 2nd-round pick out of Cincinnati. That Cincinnati team with Desmond Ridder, that was pretty good. All these guys are 2nd and 3rd-round picks. They don't have a 1st-round receiver. Ashton Dolan, undrafted free agent in his 6th year. He's getting some more run time. Anthony Richardson needs to be more careful. He has the arm talent. I mean, we've seen it before. But defensively, Montez Sweat was the only one that had a sack for the Bears. Outside that, Latu had his first career sack. And they kind of, teed off a little bit on Caleb Williams, had 4 sacks. He's getting beat up back there. They need to kind of protect him more. Philadelphia beat the Saints 15-12. And this was big because everyone thought the Saints were red hot. I think we kind of overreacted with the Saints. They're good, but they're not great. Jalen Hurts threw for 300 yards. We're seeing the passing game take over. Saquon Barkley had another great game, 17 carries, 147 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. For the year, he's got 63 carries, 351 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns, averaging 5.6 yards per carry. I mean, let's look at that, where it's adding up. So far, he'd be on pace for a career year, which is crazy. But he's former number 2 overall pick. He's still 27. Dallas Goedert had 10 catches, 170 yards. Devontae Smith, he took a rough hit in the game, had 7 catches, 79 yards. Johnny Wilson and Jahad Dodson, they're kind of battling for that number 3 spot. Maybe it looks like Paris Campbell has potentially taken it over. Brent Covey is getting more runtime as a receiver too. But looking at this now, he's down. His arm was in a sling after the win. They lost a few guys. Lane Johnson's down with concussion, and Devontae Smith is down. So you're down your top 2 receivers. Dallas Goedert's going to be the number 1 guy. It'll be interesting to see who is the number 1 receiver, if they even go to it. They ran the ball 25 times. Jalen Hurts did throw 1 pick. Derek Carr was 14-25, 142 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Alvin Kamara having a good season like he is, 26 carries and 87 yards. Jamal Williams, dude. It's sad to see him on the Saints because he goes from being a 1,000-yard back with Detroit, 4.1 yards per carry, 17 rushing touchdowns to he gets less than half the carries he got the year before, 306 yards, 2.9 yards to carry, and 1 touchdown. Why? I don't know why he signed there because he showed the potential to be number 1 running back. I guess he wanted to go to a contender. He's still 29. I think he's on his last year of his deal. I didn't like that move. I didn't like it in the first place. Don't like it now. The third quarter is just now starting for Jacksonville. Washington is up 21-10. Ooh, that's going to get ugly real quick. Chris Olave finally caught a passing touchdown. Carl Granderson had a sack and a half. Brian Brees had 2 sacks. They needed that from him. He's got 3? Yeah, 3. Jordan Davis had a sack. That's huge because he don't give many sacks. And let's look what his career stats are. I think that's his. Yeah, he has 3.5 career sacks. So it's huge. Jalen Carter was eating up the center because their starting center went down, and he was just bullying him. Quinion Mitchell played a good game. Nolan Smith is starting to rotate in and get more playing time. We're not seeing much of Cooper DeJean. Yeah, he didn't register a tackle. Which is kind of sad to see, but you're still seeing Khalil Ringo play. Really out of the last of that little slot group of guys that's really playing. Jacoby Dean's finally stepping in and playing a lot. Pete Warner's turned out to be a pretty good middle linebacker for the Saints. But it'll be interesting. I don't know if either team that we've seen is as good. I think the Eagles have a higher ceiling because you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts. And I think, they're all better than everybody they have. The Saints don't have a good number 2. Well, they do. Rashid Shaheed, and he had 5 targets and was kept quiet. Chris Olave solid. Then you have Alvin Kamara. I take Saquon Barkley over Alvin Kamara. Quarterback watch, Jalen Hurts or Derek Carr. Jalen Hurts. Tight end, I take Dallas Goedert over anybody on that team. And defensively, the potential is so much higher with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Zach Braun, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kobe Dean, Quinion Mitchell, Nolan Smith, Milton Williams, Reed Blankenship, Darius Slay, Josh Sweat. I mean, this team is deep. I mean, you're not even looking at Cooper DeJean either, who was one of the top corners in the draft class. Hasn't really played much. So, moving on to the Chargers lost to 10-20 to the Steelers. Justin Herbert re-aggravated his injury. High ankle sprain. They did not run the ball well. And you're seeing that a lot of teams losing. They did not run the ball well. Ladd McConkey, 3 catches, 44 yards. Quentin Johnson had 2 catches for 44 yards and a passing touchdown or receiving touchdown. He's starting to come around. I think he topped last year's total. Yeah, he's already passed last year's total in receiving touchdowns. He's on pace. I mean, he had 38 catches last year. He has 10 already. So, and that's not even a third of the season gone that he's already got that. Justin Fields threw his first pick, had 245 yards with 1 touchdown. Najee Harris led the team in rushing. Jaylen Warren hasn't gotten the ball as much with Cordell Patterson there. Cordell had 4 carries, 33 yards. Justin Fields had 6 carries for 6 yards and a rushing touchdown. Calvin Austin stepped up, had 4 catches, 95 yards. He's been quiet for most of the season. Outside of 13 yards, all of his stuff came from today or yesterday. Cam Hayward got a sack. That brother is just churning along. I mean, he's got 81.5 career sacks. He signed an extension. He's a Hall of Famer, I'd say. Eldon Roberts had a sack. Nick Herbig had 2. T.J. Watt had a sack. It was not on Joe Wall. Joe Wall has not allowed many pressures all year, and that is huge. Because he looked like, let's be, this rookie class isn't that good so far. I think Joe Wall's the best rookie, and I think you have to give him, right now he'd be Rookie of the Year in my opinion. Because he's going up against Max Crosby. Who else? T.J. Watt. Who else did they go up against? Okay, Carolina. But he didn't allow any against Carolina. Oh, Clowney. Clowney was the guy he went up against. Yeah. So, in my eyes, he's, Rookie of the Year. Denver, finally won a game. They beat Tampa Bay. Beat them 26-7. Bo Nix didn't throw a passing touchdown. Did run for 1. Tyler Batty had 9 carries, 70 yards. He was part of the Falcons training camp 2 years ago. Javonte Williams, 5 carries, and Jaleel McLaughlin. When a team doesn't have a set in stone number 1 running back, you kind of just see these guys just go off game from game to game. Batty is having his. Because they don't really know about Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. Javonte Williams a few years ago, before he tore his ACL, was good. His rookie was really good his rookie year, but since then not as good. He was under league average last year, 3.6 yards per carry. The league average was 4.1. Cortland Sutton looked good as their number 1 receiver. I still don't believe he's a good number 1 receiver. They don't really have one. Marvin Mims is kind of out, barely in the league. Troy Franklin had a terrible minicamp from what I heard, and then little Jordan Humphrey is meh. Buccaneers they ran the ball. Bucky Irving, 9 carries, 70 yards. Bucky Irving, I think, has taken over the number 1 running back spot for the team. Rashad White is just not that good, and he has Sean Tucker as well. Receiving wise, Chris Godwin had a catching touchdown, but outside of that, that's all. Broncos had 7 sacks. Holy cow. DeAndre Tillman, 2. Jonathan Cooper, 1. Zach Allen, 1. Nick Batito, 1. John Franklin Myers, 1. Devon Key. A lot of guys I've never heard of before just going nuts, and that is crazy. Jason McLaughlin. Kickers, dude, just bounce around the league. This brother was good. He's only 28 still, and he's been on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different teams. That's wild. I'd hate to be a kicker. But yeah, the Broncos, I'd say they're mid. They're not that good, but they're not one of the worst teams in the league. They'll be a scrappy team that fights week in and week out. But Carolina, we're going to talk about this because last episode I talked about how Bryce Young got benched by Andy Dalton. It would be bad if Andy Dalton went nuts with them. And what happened? Andy Dalton, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. The offense looked different. They scored 21 points in the first half. Chuba Hubbard had 21 carries for 114 yards. The offense looked significantly different. Dante Johnson had 8 catches, 112 yards. Chuba Hubbard had a receiving touchdown. Adam Thielen had a receiving touchdown. It looked night and day. Which looks at it may have been, everyone's saying it was the organization. it now looked like it was more or less Bryce Young just being bad. And so you look at that. I don't think Bryce Young really plays the rest of the year. I think them and the Titans are both in play for a new quarterback. If I'm the Dolphins or the Raiders, I'm calling up being like, hey, what do you want? A first-round pick? First and like a third? Because, I mean, he's 2 years removed from being the number one overall pick. He's still got value, but it does not look good. Now, again, this could be a 1 week thing, right? Because, talking about this too, the Raiders came back a little bit, scored 15 points in the fourth quarter, but Antonio Pierce came out and said that players were making business decisions, and now it's their turn to make business decisions. Most notably, Jack Jones was making a lot of clips surfaced of him making business decisions, which has been alluded to why he got cut from the Patriots. But, there's no excuse. I mean, they have no running attack. They benched Gardner Minshew, which is crazy, for Aiden O'Connell. Gardner Minshew hasn't been bad. Like, bad enough for, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. It's 62 touchdowns, 27 interceptions on the career. He's not a terrible quarterback. Aiden O'Connell's the replacement. And now you're creating, turmoil. Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker both had receiving touchdowns. Trey Tucker led the team with 7 catches, 96 yards, which is kind of weird to see. But, Brock Bowers, 3 catches, 41 yards. Robert Spillane had a sack, and then they had a half a sack between Christian Wilkins and Charles Snowden. Defensively, Jadeveon Clowney had a sack, Jaden Peavy had a sack, and LeBron Ryan. The team played night and day difference. So, the issue is that this team now looks kind of scrappy. Now, this could be a week 1 thing, and or 1 week thing, and then, this team sucks. But this team looked good. And that's scary. But we're going to see what happens going next week. And then also see what happens with Vegas. Some guys may get cut or some guys may get benched. But speaking of the Dolphins, just a second ago, Skylar Thompson got hurt in their game. They lost 3-24 to the Seahawks. Tim Boyle came in. Still astonishes me that he is still in the NFL. They didn't run the ball well. Tyreek Hill had 3 catches, 40 yards. I mean, just the offense was not good. Skylar Thompson had 2 fumbles. They had 3 sacks. Deshaun Hand, Zach Sealer, and Calais Campbell. The Seattle defense had 6. 2 for Derek Hall, 1 for Terrell Dodson, 1 for Draymond Jones, 1 for Jerron Reed, 1 for Boye Mafe. This defense is really good. Like I said, this is probably one of the better front sevens in the league. Then you add, Rick Woolen, Devon Witherspoon. It's a very solid team. They're 2 of the better quarters. Zach Charbonnet, 18 carries, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kenny McIntosh got in. Geno Smith was all right. 2 picks, 1 touchdown, 289 yards. Wouldn't like to see the 2 picks. Picks are up this year, it looks like, but Carolina needs to, or not Carolina, the Dolphins need a fix. I mean, it just looks bad right now for them offensively. Baltimore and Dallas. Again, Dallas lost again. Baltimore finally got the first one they needed. Derrick Henry broke out a little bit. 25 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. I didn't put him on there, but I'll say he's a dude of the week. One of the dudes of the week just went nuts. Lamar Jackson was 12-15, 182 yards, and a passing touchdown, 14 carries, 87 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Nelson Aguilar still in the league, dude. How old is he? Oh, he's only 31. Feels like he's been in football for forever. He was originally drafted by Philly. I thought he got brought in there. Then he had his career year with Vegas, and then he sadly went to the Patriots. Now that's regulated him to a number 3 receiver. Rashad Bateman, who I believe is their number 2 receiver, had a catching touchdown. Isaiah Likely's been quiet. Mark Andrews, dude, been 6 catches, 65 yards. I mean, that's not terrible, but at the same time, Isaiah Likely, 12 catches, 141 yards. You take out the 111 yards he had in week 1, he's at 30 yards in 2 weeks. It's not that good. Defensively, I mean, they had a team sack, and then Kyle Van Noy had 2 more sacks. Kyle Van Noy has 4 sacks. Dak was mid, 28-51, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, they had no running attack, and this is the issue I brought up. They just don't. Rico Dowell's not a number 1 back. Ezekiel Elliott's not who they what he once was. Deuce Vaughn is not an NFL running back. Jake Ferguson led the team with 6 catches, 95 yards. Devontae Turpin and Jalen Tolbert both caught passes for a touchdown. Those guys are kind of battling for the number 2 or 3 spot. I mean, you have Brandon Cooks, but he's starting to disappear a little bit. I mean, he's just 30, but he's been in the league for 10 years. So you kind of look at that and you're kind of is he going to be there? He's getting up there, been in the league 10 years. Their defense looked, again, and this brought up, soft. And, who was quiet, who was, non-existent during this game, Micah Parsons. He had 5 tackles, but he had no sacks, no tackles for a loss. It's insane because he'll play a bad team and he'll go off for 3 sacks. And you're like, oh, look, he's Lawrence Taylor. No, he's not. Tell me a big game where he's played well. He hasn't. There's none. The defense is, soft. They're down a few guys in the secondary. Eric Kendricks is, not the enforcer he once was. Malik Hooker is all right. DeMarcus Lawrence. They just have no pass rush. And you look at Micah Parsons. He's starting the year. What does he have? He has 1 sack, 9 solo tackles. Who'd that sack come against? The Browns, and they have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Again, what I say, he'll play well against a bad team. This team is not good. I was not big on them. They have no rushing attack. The defense did not gain anybody else of Eric Kendricks. They lost Deron Bland for most of the season. This team looks bad. He can't come in and help them win 3 games and it's going to be okay. They've got to play better. And I think Dallas is just not that good. I think they're kind of trash. They just don't. The defense is soft. And I'm not sold on Dak Prescott. They have no running. Again, they have no running attack. It's Rico Dowell being your number 1 back is not it. And an older Ezekiel Elliott who's been ran into the dirt is not the answer. Now moving forward, this is big. The 49ers, came up today. Brock Purdy's now down with a back injury. He's day-to-day with back stiffness. Javon Hargrave, that big free agent signing, tore pectoral muscle. He's out. Christian McCaffrey's out. George Kittle was out. Deebo Samuels was out. Jordan Mason, 19 carries, 77 yards, was solid. Brock Purdy, 292 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, solid, right? He's about up to 1,000 yards. He's one of the better quarterbacks. Juwan Jennings broke out. I don't say broke out. He's been in the league for a minute now. He's 27. He's been with San Francisco for all of it, but he has more yards this year already than he did last year. He's about to get up to his second career highest. He's now got his 2nd most receiving touchdowns. He's going to have a big year. He had 11 catches, 175 yards for 3 touchdowns. That is crazy. Brandon Ayuk was 2nd with 5 for 48. He's got to show up more. Eric Selbert is still in the league. And it's great. He's only 30, but he's been in the league since 2018. Played with the Falcons for a bit. He's only 30? I thought he was 30 in 2018. But, Ronnie Bell is not that good. Just mid. So their depth is withering behind. Javon Hargrave, defensively, Javon Hargrave had a sack. Malik Collins, and I want to see, where did Javon Hargrave go? He was at Pittsburgh for 4 years, Philadelphia for 3. His last year in Philadelphia, he had 11 sacks. He was part of that big group because I think they won it. He played for them when they won the Super Bowl. For the Rams, so the 49ers were leading for most of this game, and the Rams came back and won, which is huge. Matthew Stafford, 19 and 25 for 221 yards and a passing touchdown. Kyron Williams, they bell cow back, 24 carries, 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tutu Atwell, it looks like the number 1 receiver for right now. 4 catches, 93 yards. Demarcus Robinson only had 1 catch for 32. Jordan Whittington, 3 catches, 28 yards. Tyler Johnson, 3 catches for 20. Jordan Whittington, really, here's the X factor. He could go nuts and become that number 1 receiver in the interim, and then become the number 3. I mean, he has 50 yards so far, and it's not bad for a 6th-round pick. Who was really good at one point at Texas. Tutu Atwell has kind of been around the league for a little bit. He was a 2nd-round pick in 2021 by the Rams. Did not play in 2021. Last year had 483 yards. I think he's going to be a lot better. I think he'll be around 500, especially if he performs like this. They didn't really have much of a pass rush. Brian Young had a sack. He was one of the better pass rushers on the team. He had 8 sacks last year. So, I mean, yeah. It was big for the Rams. It's big for the 49ers because they're like the Braves. The guys just keep going down, and it's in droves, right? Kind of what the Rams had in the first 2 weeks. And now you're seeing both teams are just very injury-ridden, which gives the Seahawks a chance, and the Cardinals. But once one of these teams get healthy, I think it's going to be the Rams. The Rams are going to win the division. Right now, the 49ers they don't have the health right now. Right, but Detroit did help them out, winning 20-13. So really, outside the Seahawks, everyone is 1-2. Jared Goff had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 119 yards. David Montgomery being this insane back. I was not aware of his game in Chicago. Maybe it's because it was the Bears. The Bears were mid, but I mean he had 23 carries, 105 yards, touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 16 carries, 83 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown led the team, 7 catches, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Sam Laporta was second, but he's now down with injury. Jameson Williams had 1 for 9, and I'll bring him up in an analogy in just a second. Or not an analogy. Aiden Hutchinson had another sack. He's got 6.5 so far on the year, which is insane. The brother's a great pass rusher. I mean, he had an interception, 3 interceptions his first year as a defensive end. That's unheard of. One's crazy, 3. But they need a bookend. I mean, Marcus Davenport, but he's not who I think, is your bookend guy. Where you're he's our dude. We got 1-2. Kind of like the Texans brought in Danielle Hunter to be other side of Will Anderson. So you can't shift protection one way. You've got to respect both ends of the defensive line. Even if you have no D tackle, maybe if they just bring in an elite D tackle, or not even elite, but above average D tackle, really good D tackle, they kind of push the pocket up and you force him out one side. They didn't do that. They didn't address it in the draft. They went Kerryon Arnold and another corner, and I think that's a massive mistake. Because you have Brian Branch, Carlton Davis, Kirby Joseph. You didn't draft Kerryon Arnold. There was no DJ Reader. Is this the defensive back? No, this is the D tackle. But again, you had no really reason in doing it, and they did it. And it's kind of annoying. They have a Mike Robinson. There's no real point in doing it. Cardinals, Kyler Murray had 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The running game was subpar. Marvin Harrison had another receiving touchdown. Michael Wilson looking like the clear-cut number 2 receiver. Greg Dortch being the number 3 receiver for the team. Which is not good. And then Trey McBride having a slow start to the year. Mack Wilson Sr. and Dante Stills had sacks for the Cardinals. This team is going to be 1 week they're going to be really good, next week they're going to suck. It's a very inexperienced team that's kind of building together. In the last NFL of the game, and this game was some crap. Again, the Chiefs got away with it. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for Patrick Mahomes. Carson still had himself a heck of a game. 17 carries, 72 yards. Rasheed Rice, 12 catches, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. He will never be dude of the week, and I'll say this why. He's in causing felony charges and a hit and run, and it's like he did it. But he won't face any time unless he gets fully convicted and faces jail time. But he probably won't. Jameson Williams bets of games gets suspended 6 or 9 games. Rasheed Rice gets involved in, hit and run, and has felt multiple massive car accidents. Nothing. No suspension, nothing. It's because he's on the Chiefs, and it's terrible. And there's a bad missed PI call in the end zone Everyone said, well, the Falcons got the ball back again. Yeah, but you put it down at the 1 yard line and you get 4 attempts to score. It was a massive change of momentum. I don't like how the game ended. You run that weird formation. If Kirk Cousins can't run a QB sneak, you take him out and put someone in the can. Tyler out. They couldn't run the ball in the first place, so I don't know why you do that. Under center when you haven't been doing it at all. Then you run this weird 2-back formation, and you have it where Tyler Algier goes down the line, and their hole opens up. Well, usually when there's a lead blocker, go in the hole and clear a path. What does Tyler Algier do? Looks at the hole, keeps going. There's a tight end and a left tackle pushing guys down the side. So what does he do? I'm going to help. Well, who comes through the hole in the line? Nick Bolton. Who should have been blocking Nick Bolton? Tyler Algier. Who makes the play? Nick Bolton. Guess what happens? Turnover on downs, game's over. Drake London, he's starting to pop off. Kyle Pitts had 2 catches, 59 yards. It's just ridiculous. I would not play Kyle Algier for two weeks because that is a business decision. A business decision. Like, there's no business. The Falcons it's encouraging. I mean, there's, lost 22-17, but again, should have won this game. Who did they play in week 1? Pittsburgh. Should have won that game. It's just kind of ridiculous. But, leading stats, position stats, Dak Prescott leads the league in passing touchdowns. That's crazy. Nick Cross still leads the league in tackles. Rushing, Saquon Barkley and Jordan Mason and J.K. Dobbins are the leading running backs. Sacks goes Aiden Hutchinson, Will McDonald, Kyle Van Noy. That's crazy. Nico Collins is the leading receiver, and they haven't played this week. Or they did. I'll have to go cover that game in just a second. And then Xavier McKinney already leads the league with 3 interceptions. Now, going down to this, I don't know how I've missed this game. The Vikings beat the brakes off the Texans. C.J. Stroud went 20-31, had 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Then he left the game. I don't know why he left the game. He's not registered as hurt, so they must have pulled him out. They had no running attack. Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 94 yards. Nico Collins, 4 catches, 86 yards. Tank Dell, 5 catches, 62. Kind of like we, want to see week in and week out, but again, Sam Darnold had 4 passing touchdowns, 181 yards passing. Aaron Jones, 102 yards rushing. Justin Jefferson, 6 catches, 81 yards, 1 touchdown. Aaron Jones, 5 catches, 46 yards, 1 touchdown. Jalen Naylor, who's looking to be like their future number 3 receiver when everybody gets healthy. He's got a career high in receiving touchdowns. He'll most definitely pass career high in receiving yards. They needed that after kind of losing KJ Osborne. Jonathan Greenard had 3 sacks, so it's crazy. Honorary dude of the week. Andrew Van Ginkel had a sack. Jalen Reedman had a sack. Derek Barnett had a sack, and Will Anderson had a sack of his own. Will Anderson's now at 2.5 sacks on the year. Now, moving forward, this is going to be a longer episode again. It's going to suck to edit. Dudes of the week, NFL. Number 1, Juwan Jennings. 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. Huge. They needed that. Without that, they would probably got mollywopped. Sam Darnold, 100 is number 2 dude of the week. Sam Darnold. Now, yes, 181 yards, but it's the comeback story. He's been a dude so far, 4 passing touchdowns against a great defense in the Texans. It's huge. Number 3, Dallas Goedert, 10 catches, 170 yards. Really stepping up when they went down. They're down the number 1 and 2 receivers. They really needed him. Number 4, Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Back-to-back dude of the week. Or it's his second dude of the week appearance. Now, lastly, number 5, Andy Dalton, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kind of turning around the Panthers. The Panthers look competitive. And playoff competitive, no. Like they're going to win some games, be a thorn in people's sides, yes. Which is huge. Right now, Buffalo's up 37-10 to Jacksonville. Washington's up 21-13 to Cincinnati. I want to look at this real quick. Trevor Lawrence, 3 passing touchdown. James Cook has a rushing touchdown now. Dude, having James Cook in fantasy is insane. AJ Espinosa has a sack. He's still only 26, and this is his, fifth season? Wow. And he's only now just starting to come along. His first sack of the year. Came out of Iowa. But, man, yeah, the Jaguars are probably one of the worst teams in the league, which is crazy to say. And then Washington, Cincinnati. Jaden Daniels ran for a touchdown. They had 3 rushing touchdowns. Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has yet to throw for one. That's how bad that receiving core is. You hate to see it for him. Terry McLaurin had 1 catch, 55 yards. Joe Burrow threw for another passing touchdown. Zach Moss is looking better. So is Chase Brown. Yards per carry, Zach Moss has 5.9. Chase Brown, 6.8. Jamar Chase, 4 catches, 80 yards. T. Higgins has not been that much this year. Eric All Jr.'s their 3rd receiver. Mike Gesicki's the 2nd receiver. Yeah. But now, on to the college football side of things. Starting off, number 2, Nebraska facing 24 Illinois. Illinois won 31-24. Luke Altmaier, 4 passing touchdowns, which is huge. Honorary dude of the week. I needed to see more passing yards from him. Dylan Raiola threw for 3. Raiola looks good. You give him a top receiver, he's already got 8 passing touchdowns. It will be huge. But yeah, man. They got to Raiola 5 times. Alec Bryant had 2 sacks. Nebraska is starting to come back. Illinois is looking like a bit of a problem. It's going to see when they play Michigan and Ohio State, what that's going to look like. But Syracuse played Stanford. They lost. Their first loss of the year. But Kyle McCord threw for 2 more touchdowns. Had 2 picks. It's kind of concerned. It's kind of sad. He has 10 touchdowns already and 1,000 yards in 3 games, which is wild. I think he's a guy that you got to look at as a 2nd-round pick, potentially. He's only played 2 years. We had 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's got 10 and 3 this year. You just got to give him a look. He'll probably do good in the Senior Bowl and the Combine, and it'll probably rocket him up through the boards. Kind of like some guys did last year. Stanford had 4 sacks. David Bailey had a sack. Yeah, Deuce Chestnut. That name sounds familiar. Oh, he's at Syracuse for 2 years. Transferred to LSU and then transferred back. That's why I will not take him back. If a guy tried to transfer back to me, no. Sorry, you made your bed, sleep in it. But next up, Archie Manning threw for 258 yards. He was all right against General Booty and ULV. Ohio State blows out Marshall. Ole Miss blows out Georgia Southern. Now, the first big game of the week, right? Tennessee won 25-15. And they didn't look that scary. Nico was 13-21, 1 touchdown. Dylan Simpson was 24 carries for 92 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Deshaun Bishop looked good. Brew McCoy looked good, but outside of that, they had 2 big plays. Right, take out Dante Thornton's 66-yard reception. He has 1 catch for 7 yards. And outside of that, it's Brew McCoy. Squirrel White was quiet. Nico fumbled twice. They were terrible on 3rd down. I think everyone doesn't really look at that. I'll pull up that stat in just a second. They were abysmal. But I want to really talk about Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offense is terrible. At least when Jackson Arnold was under center. He had a QBR of 1.3. Now, if you had Michael Hawkins in, dude was hurling people, running, lowering his shoulder. He had a passing touchdown. He had 12 carries for 22 yards. He had 132 yards and 1 touchdown in the half. In 1 half of football, Jackson Arnold in his half had 7-16 for 54 yards and a pick. It's 2 different offenses. You put Michael Hawkins Jr. in that first half, I don't know if they'd win the game, but it'd be a lot closer. And OU's defense would not have been out there that much. OU only allowed 2 touchdowns. And they scored 12 points in the last quarter. But, Jaquez Pettyway blew up. Running the ball wise, they could, Oklahoma can't run the ball worth a rip. But yeah, 3 sacks against Tennessee. I want to look at the team stats. On 3rd down, Tennessee was 6-19. It's not good. They only had 345 yards total offense. It's mainly they're pretty balanced. It's mainly because of the rushing attack. They had 10 penalties. I mean, it looked slow. Just did not look good, right? Like if Oklahoma does not have a mid-off, like a terrible offense, this is a different game. But Jackson Arnold, I mean, looked awful, looked terrible, looked just abysmal in any way possible, and it's like sabotage the team. They were a different team with Michael Hawkins Jr. there, and so I think it was big. Jackson Arnold lost 2 fumbles of himself, like it was crazy. Robert Spears Jennings played big. The defense really played big for them, and so you have to. Sorry. They looked good. I was looking at some stats here. They looked 92 yards per pass, 5.5 for Oklahoma. That's bad. And now, don't get me wrong. Tennessee's front seven looked good. Like they looked great. But the offensively had holes. They're not as scary as what they were made out to be, and it kind of showed that. All the Tennessee fans were like, "We're gonna blow out Oklahoma. You won 25-15," and really that second half was telling because Oklahoma started moving the ball against y'all. So again, I need to see more. Looking at Tennessee stats, man, this is gonna be a long episode. Who they got next? Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, Kentucky. They don't play anybody that good. And I'm gonna get Tennessee fans all year. Tennesse's good. They're not that good. I think they can be a threat, but I think this is like the first year within that year with Hendon Hooker. But yeah, Michael Hawkins is going to be the starting quarterback moving forward for Oklahoma, and they might be a different team now. Missouri barely beat Vanderbilt, and I was saying this: if you lose to Vanderbilt, you should be fired as a head coach. Diego Pavia has brought life. Above quarterback play for the first time in forever. He had 2 passing touchdowns. Brady Cook had 2. Nate Noel breaking out. 24 carries, 199 yards. 69 carries, 441 yards. Dude, it was just a close game. I didn't really see the game much. I had an internship in the morning, and so it was kind of just coming back seeing the game. Missouri, but it was big. I was worried that they were going to lose. USC lost to Michigan, and Michigan only threw the ball 7 times, completed 3 passes. Miller Moss looked solid, 3 passing touchdowns, 283 yards. Woody Marks is great, 13 carries, 100 yards. Khalil Mullins went nuts, 17 carries, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. Donovan Edwards has been kind of quiet this year. He's not the same. He hasn't popped off like we were expecting. Alex Orchie, 32 yards off of passing. He had 43 yards rushing. Dude, it's bad. It's just bad. They're very one-dimensional. And it's sad that USC could not take control of it. Because Michigan just scored every quarter. Michigan's defense kept them in it, though. You had to look at, but yeah, USC losing was kind of sad. Michigan winning was crazy. I don't think Michigan's that good, anyways. Utah won 22-19 against Oklahoma State. This is battle of the old heads. Quarterback. It's kind of ridiculous. Or not really. Cam Rising did not play. Isaac Wilson threw 2 picks. Mike Bernard ran for 25 yards, 25 carries, 185 yards, which was huge. Ollie Gordon's not played well to start the year at all. And Alan Bowman was mid. Did he get hurt? Or they pulled him out of that game? Which probably explains why they lost. Garrett Rangel, quarterback. He's been on the team for 3 years. He's somehow a senior. He's not played much. Crazy in modern days that he did not transfer out of there. But yeah, this game was like a boring game. Nobody really takes much from these two. Utah without Cam Rising is not that good. So yeah. Moving on. Already over the hour mark. LSU beat UCLA 34-17. Notre Dame's bounced back. Louisville beat Georgia Tech. We're not going to really go into that game much. Clemson won 59-35 to NC State. And Arkansas State lost 7-52 to Iowa State. Northern Illinois lost their first game of the year, 20-23 to Buffalo. They had their game-winning kick blocked. Ethan Thompson did not look good. And Tario Brown, for week 1 due to the week, had 73 carries, 2 touchdowns. Or 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. 73 carries would have been crazy. It's been every play. That is some Michigan-level stuff right there. But, yeah, moving forward, Texas A&M barely beat Bowling Green. I'll say this: if Marcel Reed is not the starting running back when Connor Wigman comes back, then the head coach needs to be fired. Marcel Reed gives them the best chance to win. He had 12 carries, 91 yards. He had 173 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Connor Bazelak, the former Missouri quarterback, it's crazy that he's at Bowling Green now. He's at Indiana for a year and then transferred to Bowling Green. No clue why you would do that to yourself. But he's at Bowling Green now. Bowling Green's in every game they played so far. So Harold Fanin Jr. had 8 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown. That brother looks good. 25 catches already. But A&M's going to be a solid back end top 25 team, but nobody that really scares you during the week. This is a big game. James Madison beat UNC, and James Madison was played. Now they're a bottom FBS team because they just got promoted about a little over a year ago to from FCS to FBS. They were a top FCS team for a while, and they were supposed to be bowl eligible last year, but they got that cleared because they didn't have enough bowl eligible teams in the FBS to play bowl games, so they became bowl eligible. They won 70-50 against North Carolina. Had Alonzo Barnett, 5 passing touchdowns, had 388 yards passing. He also carried the ball 13 times for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. At some point, James Madison's got to have some respect put on their name and be ranked. I mean, this is crazy. North Carolina got destroyed. Now, Omarion Hampton, 19 carries, 139 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Jacoby Criswell had 3 passing touchdowns, 475 yards, but 2 interceptions. I was going to make him a dude of the week, but the 2 interceptions is better than no. He's their 3rd starting quarterback of the season, which is wild to see. Now, Amarian Dawson, 2 Amarians, had 3 catches, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. Honorary dude of the week, Cam Ross, 7 catches, 107 yards, and 1 touchdown. It was just a huge, huge game. I mean, James Madison getting paid. Teams got to stop paying other teams to play them because they keep losing. I mean, this is huge. Yeah, they're the leaders of the Sun Belt. That is crazy. And the starting quarterback for them is a sophomore. Redshirt sophomore. He didn't even start last year. Who was the starter last year? Okay, that is low-key kind of crazy. He didn't start when they were in FCS. So, in 2022, they were FCS level team. And you kind of can see it. Their stats are kind of insane. A lot of one-man game type stuff. But, yeah, just all around a lot of pass rush. 2022 comes around. Who was the quarterback last year? Jordan McLeod, is he still, or did he graduate? He is a Texas State Bobcat. Why? He was at UCF for 2 years, Arizona for a year. Okay, so the brother just likes to go. He likes to travel. Yeah, Keelan Black was their leading rusher last year. Elijah Surratt. He may be in the league now. No, he is with Indiana. So they had a lot of guys transfer. And then you come into this year, and Alonzo Barnett. Saturday stats are not put in. Can't be because he has 354 yards. Yeah. So, yeah, on the season he has 742, 7 touchdowns. That's huge. They need that. George Pettyway being the leading rusher. And then off receiving wise, yeah, George, yeah, dude, it's a completely different unit. This is a team that guys would go to for 2 years and transfer for their final year. Now they're becoming a destination. That's good to see. Let me go back to the way it was before. But it's good to see James Madison. I didn't know teams could get promoted from FCS to FBS, and seeing them get promoted and then be so darn good is crazy. Moving on. Yeah, just looking here. Arkansas and Auburn. Oh, dude, Auburn is so bad. I gotta make sure. Yeah, we'll have 2 more games to cover. And the second to last one is the Auburn game. If I can find it. Arkansas Auburn. Arkansas won 24-14. Hank Brown was talking like, I can't wait to obliterate Arkansas, right? Like, so great. Throws 3 picks, 7-13, 72 yards. Peyton Thornton comes back in. Taylor Green did not play that well himself. He led the team rushing. Jaquan Jackson is a darn good running back. So is Jarquez Hunter. Cam Coleman's not getting that involved just yet. It's game of the second. The only reason why I talk about it is because Hank Brown made a complete and utter fool out of himself. A fool. Just a daggum idiot for making the comments he made. But on to the next. Okay, with 2 more. We're going to go off of this one. Baylor lost to Colorado in overtime, and this is kind of big because Colorado's 3-1 now. Shedeur threw for 2 touchdowns. They, again, no rushing attack at all. Shedeur ran the ball 19 times. That's not going to last long. Travis Hunter, 7 catches, 130 yards. Great. Amari Miller had his first 2 career catches, 71 yards, 1 touchdown. Jimmy Horn was kind of quiet. You really look, outside of Sawyer Robinson with the 9 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown, and threw 2 passing touchdowns, but he only had 148 yards passing. It must have been the defense. Yeah. Okay, so they had 8 sacks against Colorado. Colorado's offensive line was just terrible. But on to the last game. Florida State finally won a game. They beat Cal 14-9. DJ Ugalele threw another pick. Lawrence Toafili was solid. It's just so bad, dude. I just want to talk about it because, Patrick Payton had 3 sacks. Marvin Jones had 2. The defense finally showed up against the Cal team was 3-0 coming into the week. But this team is so bad. They're so bad. Going to back to the NFL real quick. Commanders are up 28-13. Looking at it, Jaden Daniels threw his first career passing touchdown, which is huge, to Trent Scott. Who is that? Offensive tackle. So that's huge for them. That's good for Jaden Daniels. But yeah, now on to the college dudes of the week. Starting off, Khalil Mullings, 17 carries, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. Without him, really, Michigan would have got blown out. Garrett Nussmeier had 352 yards. I know we haven't really covered his game much, but he had 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. Big performance from him. I wanted just to highlight him for once. Micah Bernard, he didn't have any rushing touchdowns, but without him, they definitely would have won the game. 25 carries, 182 yards rushing. Huge, right? Just big. Nate Noel, 24 carries, 119 yards. Again, no rushing touchdowns, but really carrying Missouri. They needed him to step up after the loss of Cody Schrader. Now the big one, Alonzo Barnett. I talked about it. The third, 388 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 13 carries, 99 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Just massive. And I got on the opposite side of the field, offensively, Omari Hampton, 19 carries, 139 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. That's big as well. I'm kind of trying to get through this because it's a longer episode. And then lastly, Patrick Payton, 3 sacks, which is huge. And he's finally shown his potential. But sorry for another long episode. I may end up doing 2 different episodes, one for NFL and one for college. Just to kind of break down the times and kind of break down how long the editing is. The episode will probably be out sometime Wednesday again, because I just got a busy day tomorrow with a lot of just studying and stuff to do tonight and tomorrow. So it'll be probably tomorrow afternoon when I start editing, and I got some homework to do. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.